name is Sterre Lutz. I am a master's student in artificial intelligence in the Netherlands at Utrecht. I also studied at TU Delft, for those who knew it. I'm talking about Deontic paradoxes in library regulations, which is a case study in the language Flint. And that was actually for TNO as an internship, and TNO is a research institute in the Netherlands. So when I started with my internship, the question was, the task that I was given was to find out if Deontic paradoxes can occur in their language, which they developed, which is Flint. And Flint is a modeling language for norms. And I want to quickly go over some definitions. Has anyone ever worked with Deontic logics before, or heard of it? Right. Not a lot, but so Deontic logic concerns things that must be true or must not be true, and tries to formalize those concepts. So not just facts that can be true or false, but also things that are required. And you can do that, for example, with standard Deontic logic, which takes the must as an operator and expresses other concepts by using that box operator. So it's a modal logic, and one of the simplest ones. So then what is a Deontic paradox? A Deontic paradox is when you want to express a certain situation from natural language into formal language, and that allows you to derive some new facts which conflict with the original statement or with our understanding. So it's an unintended consequence. So what's the language Flint? Flint is also sort of a Deontic logic or language modeling language. So it tries to show what is allowed in regulations or laws. And it does that with three building blocks. We have acts, facts, and duties. For example, we have in the middle here an act to loan a book from a library, for example. And each act has a precondition, can have also multiple preconditions. For example, that someone is a member. And given that that fact, that is a precondition, holds, the action has a certain effect. So it can create or terminate another fact. Also, we have duties, for example, to return a book. And each duty also has a connection to actions. So we don't just walk around through life every day with the obligation to return a book, right? It's created by something. So it's created by the action to loan a book. Also terminated, when we return a book, we are relieved of the duty. And there's also an enforcing action for the library. They can give you a fine to enforce you to do your duty. All right, so the question the task I was given was for me a little bit too broad. I had only 10 weeks. So I honed it down to a specific paradox, the Chisholm Paradox, and I was trying to see if it necessarily occurs in Flint models. So the Chisholm Paradox is a paradox that can occur, for example, in library regulations. So if we have these four statements, which are reasonable statements, books should be returned by due dates, as they are with every library. It should be that if books are returned by the due date, then additional books should be issued. If books are not returned by the due date, no more books should be issued to that person. And we are in a situation, for example, where books are not returned by the due date. These are things that are logical rules and a situation that could occur. And the structure we call contrary to duty imperative. So in standard Deontic logic, if you formalize this, I won't go into too much in depth, but if you formalize this, we can derive a conflicting conclusion. By the rules of standard Deontic logic, the top two rules, you must return the books, and it must be that if you return a book, then new books must be issued, actually allows you to derive that new books must be issued. However, the bottom one, by just propositional logic, you can derive that it must be that books are not issued. So this is conflicting and therefore a paradox, the Chisholm Paradox. So the method that I was using to show whether Flint has this Chisholm Paradox is to take these four rules and try to express them using Flint. This was the result. It's a bit of a monster, and I don't have a lot of time, because technically I was just sharing a research proposal. So I'm skipping this. But why do I think that the Chisholm Paradox does not occur here? It's because of the structure of the language. So it's very similar to dynamic logic, for example, for those who know it. We have a precondition, and if that is true, then the action alpha results in the fact Q. So it also creates something. That's very similar to our actions. And that means that P and Q are not necessarily true in the same moment, right? There's different time frames. And we also have the Deontic extension of the dynamic logic, in which we have an obligation that can also be created or terminated. So this is very similar to Flint. And Meyer et al. In 1988 showed that for PDL, actually the Chisholm Paradox and many other paradoxes didn't occur. So this is very nice for our results. So skipping this. So what we saw is that we can formalize these rules using PDL without a conflict occurring. And this is because the conflict occurred because of the implication of rule 1 and 2, whereas here we have the fact that the obligations are created. So either we have done alpha or we have done not alpha, and those two situations are separate. So it won't occur that we have an obligation to do beta and not do beta. All right. So I think this is all I have time for right now. I hope you take away from this that there may be paradoxes in your languages or there may not be. But if you are doing some dynamic versions, which most programming languages do, you might be safe.
Thank you very much. So we do have time for a question?
I have a question. Yep. This is Guido Governatory.
Yes?
So it's not a comment. It seems to me that the solution of the paradox, it's not due to dynamic logic, but essentially what you do, you remove the so-called Deontic detachment. Essentially, you move the antecedent outside the Deontic scope. And that is a very well-known way to solve it, but it might be fully correct before the representations, because when you consider 2, you have alpha, which is outside the scope of the modal operator, of the Deontic operator, while in the sentence 2, the action is inside the scope.
Right. Yes, it is different. Why is it different? It's a really good question. Because in standard Deontic logic, we need, I don't know if you can see from here. In Deontic logic, you need to formalize 2 and 3 differently. If you formalize them both in the same structure, either top one or bottom one, then you get an inconsistent set of rules. Therefore, it's not possible to write it like this, to take it out for standard Deontic logic. And that's actually the nice result of PDL and Flint, is that you can take it out because this is consistent in these logics. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. And Guido, that was an excellent advertisement for your talk.
Thank you. Yep.
So let's take the speaker again.